Congress holds historic UFO hearings, and we're going to talk about some of the details. Here's a clip.
We begin 5 headlines exactly where you expected us to begin, with the UFO hearings on Capitol Hill. The historic hearings, actually historic. In this case, they really are historic. Daily Wire reports lawmakers held an explosive hearing on Wednesday on the topic of UFOs, and things got, well, weird. Appearing before the House Oversight Committee's National Security Subcommittee was David Grush, a former intelligence officer, along with 2 fighter pilots with firsthand unidentified aerial phenomenon experiences. Grush was the star, revealing an alleged top-secret, multi-decade crash retrieval and reverse engineering program, only to be denied access and accusing the military of misappropriating funds. Grush dropped a bombshell about aircraft with non-human origins, complete with biologics recovered from these mysterious crafts. Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle are now scratching their heads, wondering how in the world or beyond it they should proceed with these astonishing claims. Well, we have, rather than reading the article, I suppose, we have some of these clips. And I mean, I prefer to play the whole hearing. It'd be worth our time, but I can't really do that. So I have to boil this down to like 2 or 3 moments that I think are the most important. So we'll start here with Representative Nancy Mace questioning Mr. Grush. And here's how that went. Watch.
Do you believe our government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials?
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
This is something I personally didn't like about this entire hearing. You're coming to have a public hearing in front of Congress, but no, I can't speak about that publicly.
Okay, I can't ask when you think this occurred. If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
I think it's really interesting this guy likes to use the word biologics. I mean, that could be anything. A non-human, that could be a dog. I'm not saying that they're not aliens or anything. I'm personally, unconvinced on this whole topic. However, I think it's interesting the wording this guy chooses to use, and he's very careful about that wording.
Here we have witnesses talking about the technology and capabilities of the UFOs. And by the way, again, these are people who personally witnessed some of these crafts. And not only witnessed it, but we also have video of what they witnessed. This is a fair amount of evidence. But here's what they say.
They move essentially ways in which current technology or aircraft that we know of are unable to actually function or move. And so will you just, for the public record, again, once again, just briefly just either describe or note that aircraft that are being witnessed, particularly by the 30 folks that you're working with, are essentially outside the scope of anything that we know of today and the technology we have today. Mr. Graves, Mr. Fravor?
Yes, the objects that are being seen by commercial pilots are performing maneuvers that are unexplainable due to our current understanding of our technology and our capabilities as a country, and that applies for the military as well.
Mr. Fravor?
Yeah, I concur with that. We have nothing that can stop in midair and go the other direction, nor do we have anything that can, like in our situation, come down from space, hang out for 3 hours, and go back up.
Thank you. My last question, and sometimes I know that you have also said some of these answers in the past, but we're trying to get them on the public record as well, which is really important. Mr. Grush, finally, do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
And where?
I know the exact locations.
Okay. So one thing we hear, the people who want to dismiss what Grush is saying, they'll claim, well, he didn't witness any of this. But of course, if he said he witnessed it, the same people will say, well, we don't trust him, I don't believe. So no matter what he said, it wouldn't make a difference to them. What you do have flanking him, though, on either side are people who did witness some things. And it's not like those who are skeptical of Grush and say he did witness it. It's not like they are listening to the other two and saying, well, I believe them. So again, if you're starting from the position that all of this is somehow impossible or you refuse to believe it, then there is nothing anyone could ever say, and there is no evidence anyone could ever present that you would find compelling. And there are a lot of people in that camp. And if you're in that camp, at least admit it. At least admit that it's just, rather than saying, I don't try the evidence, it's not enough evidence. No, There is no evidence that you would find compelling, because in this case we have videos, we have eyewitness testimony, and it's eyewitness testimony from all kinds of different people, right? Actual expert eyewitness testimony. By expert, I don't mean expert in the sense that we here trust the experts, but experts as in Navy pilots who understand how aircraft work, and it's their whole job to go up and identify things that are happening in the sky and potential threats and all that. So like actual experts in that sense. We have those kinds of witnesses. We have lots of normal people who've seen things. So when you've got video, when you've got eyewitness testimony, it's evidence. And there's a lot of both of those things.
I completely disagree with Matt Walsh here. He says that if you don't believe these witnesses, that there's no amount of evidence that would convince people. I don't agree with that at all. And the videos he's referring to, they're like really, really bad quality of like, an object just moving around. It's just grainy. It's not 1080p or 4K where you can even see what the thing is. And eyewitness testimony, is eyewitnesses really evidence? I mean, it kind of is, but, the expert testimonies, yeah, that's a fair point. They don't know what this stuff is. It's kind of weird, but I mean, expert in a way. I mean, if they are always seeing these things and they don't know what they are, so that's really interesting. And like for me, like I've watched these occasionally. I follow UFO hunter YouTube channels. I'm subscribed to them, and they see some interesting stuff by Area 51. So I do find this stuff compelling. If you like took those people, like some YouTubers that go and chase UFOs, you took them to Area 51, right? You showed them the aircraft, you turned it on, you put them on there, you filmed all of this, you filmed them on the aircraft flying around with it. Who's not going to be convinced by that? Almost everyone is. But when you just have these grainy videos and these eyewitness testimonies, to me, it's kind of sus. If there's all this evidence and all this stuff, where's all the actual real confirmation? Every video we've ever seen of like aircraft and UFO and everything, it's always been, and again, just so we're clear, I'm not convinced one way or the other. I don't know. This could be aliens. This could be extraterrestrial. It could be otherworldly. I just am always a skeptic when anyone from the government starts saying this, especially with the state of America and the state of the world. Everything's like collapsing and everything. And now this is when we're going to start talking about aliens. Denied it for decades, but now it's time, for whatever reason. And considering these witnesses aren't getting slandered like crazy in the media, you don't have people in the Congress trying to censor them and, demonize them. You can't even talk about like the harms of vaccinations without getting demonized and almost kicked out of hearings, right? But UFOs, nope, everyone's on board. That never, ever, ever happens. So again, I'm open to the idea, but it definitely raises some questions, right?
Finally, have there been any non-human technologies or interactions that have caused harm to humans? That was a question that was asked, and let's hear.
So there has been activity by alien or non-human technology and or beings that has caused harm to humans.
I can't get into the specifics in an open environment, but at least the activity that I personally witnessed, and I have to be very careful here because they tell you never to acknowledge tradecraft, right? So what I personally witnessed myself and my wife was very disturbing.
Yeah, never acknowledge tradecraft, but it's okay if you go testify in front of Congress and basically the whole world. Oh, that part's fine. I don't know. This guy, it's just, again, I want to restate this. I'm not convinced one way or the other, right? But this guy, I just don't trust him. Oh, so one of the, I can't talk about specifics. No, I can't. But I found it disturbing. He's under oath, right? He doesn't want to be accused of perjury. So he kind of has to say, consider disturbing. You could, anything. Me slapping myself in the face right now, like that some people consider that disturbing. I just don't like how the questioning is on this hearing and how this guy answers.
Okay, now a few things here. First, if you cannot at least appreciate the fact that we're having this congressional hearing about non-human technology in the sky, then I don't know what to say. You know, there were a bunch of people on social media yesterday that I saw that were saying this is all boring. It's boring. I'm so bored. My God, you dull nitwits. Really, this subject is boring? I've seen the subjects that you people find interesting, okay? I've seen the kinds of things that you people talk about for days on end. And this is boring to you? Compared to all the other things that are discussed on social media every day, this is what you find boring? You've got these right-wing pundits, I've seen plenty of them, who go on for days and days about the same damn thing, repeating the same talking points over and over again. Just an insatiable appetite for the most boring, mundane, dreary, useless conversation. And yet a congressional hearing where a witness testifies to the existence of non-human technology is boring? Even if you think it's all fake, by the way. If you think it's all fake, it's still not boring. Like, it's interesting. Okay, it's either way, this is easily the most interesting thing that's happened in Washington, D.C., maybe since ever. So if what they're testifying to is true, that's fascinating. If this is all some kind of insane, elaborate ruse, that's also fascinating and certainly worth talking about. So it's boring stuff. It blows my mind. I just don't get it. I really don't. Okay, so then that raises the question of whether or not this is all fake. Like, and if it is, then why? And don't tell me it's a distraction technique. Don't tell me that. I've already addressed that many times. Okay, you know what I'm going to say. The claim that all this is one big distraction, it's one big diversion, is simply nonsensical because, first of all, it does not distract. Nobody cares. They should, but they don't. So it is not a successful distraction technique. Why would they keep doing it? To distract when it is actually not distracting anybody. Okay, this UFO hearing happened. It was trending sort of for a few hours on Twitter, and then it went away and no one talked about it anymore. So, and you're saying they're doing all of this. This is one giant conspiracy to distract us. And what, the people that are doing, they don't notice that it's not working and they keep doing it? Second, as I've said many times, they don't need to make up aliens to distract us. We are already distracted. We already ignore most of the most important things happening in the world. We already move on from things at the speed of light. We have the attention spans of plankton already. And third, if the government would use aliens to distract us, why did they deny all of this for decades? There was plenty that they would have wanted to distract us from in the 50s and the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s and 2000s and 2010s. And yet they denied. And then just out of nowhere, they decided to start distracting us with this, even though it's not distracting, but it should.
Yeah, Mag, that could be true. They could just be releasing this stuff, expecting people to get distracted by it. And it's like the boy who cried wolf, right? They got distracted at first. Wolf, wolf. Oh, no. Oh, no. But then, after a million times, this is kind of like, I don't know. It's like, maybe. It's like, why did the Pentagon even start releasing these videos in the last few years in the first place? Right? There's no reason for them really to be doing it. I've always questioned this. Like, why are they releasing these videos all of a sudden? It's been decades. Right? They have supposedly stuff from the 50s or 60s, right? They never released that. That stuff's probably all super declassified. How come this stuff is the stuff they're bringing out? Is it purposely a distraction? I don't know. But what happened is the Pentagon brought out the stuff, so certain Congress people started asking questions, and that's the boat we're in now, right?
That brings me to my next point, which is that if your skepticism of government is informing your view on this stuff, which I understand, then that should cause you to take the UFO subject more seriously, not less. The government has officially denied all of this forever. And they still do. These are whistleblowers who are coming out, okay? These are, and it's only a few of them.
I mean, he says this, but like the point I was just making, though, the Pentagon is releasing videos about this stuff. They're not whistleblowers. How come they're releasing this?
The predominant government narrative since forever and still now is that there are no UFOs. We don't need to think about it. Nothing to see here. This is what the government has always said about all of this. And this is still basically their response. They've obliquely acknowledged a little bit of this now, only because they're forced to. And we've seen, recent history has shown us many examples of things that were dismissed as conspiracy theories and crazy and not even worth thinking about. And then they turn out to be true. And then the same government officials who denied all of it will turn around and say, oh, maybe there's some truth to that. I don't know. It's not because the government decided to start being honest, but because their hand was forced. Because the truth came out and they had no choice but they couldn't keep just flat out denying it. So you could say, well, this is a big distraction. It's not distracting us at all, but that's what it is. So that could be your theory. Another theory is that, a theory to explain why did they deny, and now, we're getting hearings about it. Another explanation is that they denied forever because they could, because we didn't have the internet, and there was really no way, if somebody saw something, there was no way to prove it. It was also for many decades while this was going on, people weren't carrying cell phones around in their pockets and that sort of thing. But now, with modern technology and modern communication, we can start seeing things and spreading information in a way that we couldn't before. And so now they have no choice but to at least pretend to acknowledge some of this. I mean, that's another way of explaining the contrast and how these issues have been handled now versus then.
I think all of that would be a really good point if, like I've been saying, the Pentagon themselves didn't release video. And it's not like, to my knowledge anyways, cell phone video went super viral. There's been the stuff over Mexico City and stuff, but that stuff happened in the 90s. And was the weird stuff over Chicago in the mid-early 2000s. I think it's 2003 or 2004. I don't remember exactly. That stuff's been around for a long time. That's 20 years ago. But they didn't acknowledge anything then, and there was the internet then. It wasn't quite as, ubiquitous as it is now. But still, the internet was everywhere. It was a lot of places. You could learn a lot of stuff on the internet back in 2003. And that stuff hit the mainstream media. The media wasn't so super corrupt back then, and they still denied it. But now they do it. And again, Matt makes a good point. There's cell phones and stuff, but I don't remember really a super viral video or a few viral videos really hitting the space. It was mainly what brought all this up was the Pentagon releasing this. So yeah, that's what I think is really weird about this. Why did the Pentagon acknowledge this at all? How come how come the Pentagon released stuff and they didn't continue to deny it? And then Congress comes up. I would understand his point more if the Pentagon wasn't releasing stuff.
So what does all this mean? It means, first of all, this is interesting. And if you don't find it interesting, you should. You're just wrong. You're wrong to not find it interesting. It's objectively wrong. And what does it actually mean? What are the origins of these things that are in the sky? I don't know exactly. But there is enough evidence at a minimum to say that something is going on, okay? These crafts that are in the sky that can do things that to us seem impossible, that defy the laws of physics, like traveling at many hundreds of miles of an hour and then stopping on a dime in the middle of the air and changing direction, that sort of thing. That is happening. There are things in the sky that are doing all of that. And what that means is that someone possesses that technology, and if you don't even want to consider the possibility that it could be otherworldly, then you're left with, there are governments on Earth that have technology that defies the laws of physics as we understand it, and are eons ahead of us in their technological capabilities. Which is also interesting if that's the case. It's not boring. Certainly not.
Yeah, I'd agree. I don't think this is boring at all, and I think it's very fascinating. But the point I made earlier, I think why certain people do find this boring is it's like the boy who cried wolf, right? It's just like they've heard about it so many times. And the hearing, I don't think they were saying like the topic was boring. I think he's kind of misconstruing that. I think they just thought the hearing was boring, which I just saw the clips that Matt posted. I didn't watch any of the other clips, but I also thought it was kind of boring. The guy, they ask him questions. I can't talk about that. I can't get specific on that. No, I can't talk about that either. No, I can't give specifics, but right? He's not showing video evidence of him walking through a secret bunker somewhere in New Mexico or Nevada or something, right? Just showing all these aliens and in 1080p video, right? It's just kind of it's a lot of it's just kind of hearsay, right? Again, I'm not saying I don't believe it. I think it's fascinating, but I need a little bit more to concretely like believe this. Matt Walsh just seems like he's like, okay, this is for sure, you know. But I don't know. He just said he doesn't know what they are either. Which that's the thing is nobody knows what this stuff is. I've heard people say maybe it's some atmospheric phenomena. I don't know about that. Is it another government? I would say it's probably more likely otherworldly versus a government, but you never really know. And if it was America would be the only government that would possess this, right? If Russia had it, they'd be using it in Ukraine. If China had it, they'd probably be using it in Ukraine. You know, they're allies. I guess who really knows? But no, it would have to be the U.S. So then it begs the question, you know, why would the U.S., the Pentagon, be releasing the technology unless it's just so underground that the Pentagon doesn't even know about it, which I could see that. I covered that video recently that they're sending military emails to Maui because it's .ml instead of .mil for military. So it's like, and then official came out and said, oh, we don't have the capability to even block this, which is definitely not true. But that's what they think. So I don't know. Everyone at the Pentagon, you get an official, they've been like, oh, what is this? Let's release it, right? But even though it's part of American technology, I can see it being American technology. I don't think it would be a manned vehicle stopping at hundreds of miles per hour and then just stopping and going in another direction. Person would get messed up from that, right? That's like they're saying the biologics, right? It's like, could any alien withstand those G's? You know, hundreds of miles per hour, stop. Their eyes are gonna pop out of their head. You know, unless they're really strong species, but then all these different species, and it's curious, like, why is this happening so much now? I've heard like witnesses say, like in comments, saying, you know, in World War II they saw some weird stuff. But it wasn't like the norm. Now it just seems like it's all the time. Maybe it's just because aircraft are so prominent nowadays. But I don't know. I just don't get why now, right? Like the decades of doing this, and the pilots have been around for a long time. Maybe they were just more hunkered down back then, and people are more prone to be whistleblowers and stuff. Like, you know, Joe Rogan podcasts and stuff talking about aliens, and it gets people's, you know, antennas perked up a little bit. Maybe they want to release stuff more. Maybe there is more whistleblowers. But it definitely it raises a lot of questions for me, you know? I don't know. I like the idea of aliens. I always have. I think it's interesting. I definitely think there is other intelligent life out there. Like, what did Israeli official say, like last year, a few years ago or whatever, that there's aliens and there's intelligent life. They don't want anything to do with us because we fight too much. And, you know, the international council, they don't want any of that. Which I could see. I mean, if aliens really did crash here, right? And now the U.S. is trying to reverse engineer it. It's like, okay, that's kind of worrying. But, yeah, it's all very, very interesting. And I guess we'll just see what happens. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe for daily news updates, smash that like button, share this video with your friends, and share your thoughts on the story in the comments below. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.